Good evening. This is Stedman Fry, along with my co-host Amanda Goodman-Berry and Flex McGee, with Delta Workers Unite, the Working Class Podcast, your newest resource for news, updates, and information on the state of the union drive and how you can get involved. We'll bring you interviews and stories from workers just like you and us who want to share happenings as they see them. We'll also be debunking the falsehoods and misconceptions about the union and giving you the tools to do the same. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you will know when we post or go live. Thank you. Hello. Good evening. This is Stedman Fry with Delta Workers Unite, the Working Class Podcast. Almost had a brain freeze. And I'm joining you again solo. And it's almost like at this point when we have just me here, you should assume it's going to be a great episode. We have another guest joining. So we had to do another pre-record, joined by a pilot. Let me get the full information. We're joined by Delta Pilot, so union member, actual union rep. Delta Pilot, representative of the Airline Pilots Association International, or ALPA. I think that's Delta Pilot Department 20, or either it's Local 20, I'm not sure. But he'll say it in the video. Ryan Breznau. He's the chair of the captain's representatives. And he's going to be here to give us some inside information about what it's like to be a unionized employee at Delta Airlines. It's about a 40-some minute interview, and I'll do my best to try to chop up some of the most relevant parts so that, you can see those particularly fast. But it's a really good interview. He really dropped some gems for us, really motivating, and a lot of great information. Pardon the beeps. I must have my phone on silent, pardon me. But I'll get to the video. So without further ado, here is the video. I'll pull it up. And again, it's just, a lot of great content. So let me start that over. Hi, this is Stedman Fry with Delta Workers Unite, the Working Class Podcast. I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Flex McGee and Amanda Goodman-Berry, and we have a special guest, Captain Ryan Breznau. So I'm going to pass it to Amanda to introduce herself, and we'll take the interview from there.
All right, I'm Amanda. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm Amanda Goodman-Berry, Minneapolis rep, 27 years, actually almost 28 years, and I'll pass it off to my brother, Flex McGee.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Flex McGee, Atlanta. It'll be officially 25 years next week for me as well. So happy to be here. Excited today. Yeah. Give it up a little bit, man. Who would have thought I'd made this long? Just want to give a real quick special shout out to James Carlson and the Carlson family who lost his father, Mr. John Carlson, today. I just wanted to make sure I show some love in that. And I also want to introduce Ryan Breznau. I hope I said it right. I probably messed it up a little bit. But I want to introduce him, man. He's a pilot for Delta Airlines, and I'll give it to you, brother. Yeah, tell us about yourself. Welcome to the pod.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for everybody for listening. My name is Ryan Breznau. I am a captain on the Airbus 321 series in Detroit. Our union is the Airline Pilots Association, and I am the elected captain rep and chairman of Detroit, representing over 1,900 pilots.
Wow.
Big up. Yeah.
Welcome, fellow Michigander.
Right. What up, though?
Ryan, as we talked a little bit on Saturday, I just want you to just jump right in and tell us, the workers, why we need a union, why it's so important and pertinent right now at this time that we seek election, and talk about the pilots and what you guys are going through right now with the contract and all of that. So if you could just talk to the workers and talk to us as the Delta workers on, why it's important now that we get these things done.
Yeah. Again, the pilots, especially in Detroit, we are huge advocates on any other employee group at Delta or anywhere other the unions in Michigan. Unionizing. I'll go through the benefits in a minute, but if you guys ever want our help, need our help, want us to show up, we've been on the picket line with you guys at the airport. We are always here to help you guys. So, as a union rep, I've been at Delta for over 10 years. I was at the regionals for just under 10 years as well. I've been a rep, a negotiator. I was in contract admin. I have been through almost every position within a union, and I can't tell you how important it is to be a part of one. Why is it important for you listening to want to advocate and put up the time and effort and charge in order to unionize? And what are the benefits to you? So the biggest thing is that you've got a collective voice. You're all together under a union, especially with like IAM or with ALPA. It's usually a bigger entity, not just for your local group that you're going to be under, that you get resources and strength from. They usually have lawyers. They have government affairs agencies to help you advocate for your rights in your own state. And you're able to come together as one group against management with your concerns. What does it get you by having a collective voice? You get better pay and benefits. That's usually the biggest thing. If you compare yourself to the peers, where do you look? Where are you sitting? Where are you located? We look pretty consistently about where our other employee groups are compared to where they get paid in other airlines, United, American, even Southwest. And you see a huge disparity. Our management company really likes to show big numbers and where you compare, but is that the total compensation package when you're looking at your 401k contributions, your time off, sick time, vacation, and it seems like our employee groups are unfortunately lacking in a lot of those areas, which is unfortunate. Another big area is job security. We are pretty involved with helping out AFA and our flight attendants, the Association of Flight Attendants, to unionize as well. And you start looking like, I don't know how it is for you guys, and step in if you want, but you call in sick more than twice in your career, and now you're on a list, and you can get terminated for that, which is absurd. Like, if you're sick, you're sick. Like, you shouldn't be showing up to sick work. First of all, that's not good for your health. And then you don't need to be getting your coworkers sick, because then you can hurt their families and you don't know what their situations are. So, all these job protections and job security, and not thinking that you're going to get terminated or in trouble for something that happens to you normally. Also, improved working conditions, hours, the safety in which you work and operate. If it wasn't for a union, as for the pilots, you would see airplanes crashing all day long, because what does management like to do? They like to cut costs. They like to make sure your training is the quickest, cheapest thing as possible. Our biggest thing is safety. If we crash an airplane, your whole airline's almost done at that point, especially a big one. We strive for excellence, and that would only come from the union, because we have fought the company tooth and nail on all these different safety items, from training to maintenance to ground ops and how we do business. And, you've probably seen in your own line, advancements in that because we've had to say something about it. Like, this isn't safe for you guys. It's not safe for us. We work in a very dangerous environment. We're flying tube through space. You guys are operating, around engines and other equipment that get hurt all the time. We see it on the news. I hate to hear it. And we just, it's another voice for you guys to make sure that you're getting what you guys need to effectively work safely and happy in a workplace. And the other big thing is solidarity and community, especially in Michigan, living in Detroit. My family's from here. Unions have been the strive and backbone of the middle class for decades. If it wasn't for that, and having us working with UAW and working outside of our own union, we wouldn't get any benefits either. And we all support one another. We're not here to make sure that we're stepping up higher than anybody else. We want everybody's work, pay, benefits, safety, security to rise with us. We don't want anybody being left out. We want to work all together and collaborate and work. And you don't get that when you don't have a union. You just basically get what you're told you're going to get, and that's it. And it's not a good way to do business. So hopefully that answers your question, Amanda.
Yes, that did. It actually very thoroughly. I see Flex unmuted, so go ahead, Flex.
Yeah, all of that was great information, man, because it's so many, people sometimes feel like at the job, it's kind of like a class type situation. You got, upper management, you have pilots, you have flight attendants, you have above wing, and then you got the grunts, us who do all of the dirty work we feel sometimes could be underappreciated. So to be able to hear you speak about that and speak about others in other classifications in that light is pretty cool too. I do have a question for you. When you spoke about your sick policy, currently for us on the ramp, and I believe above wing as well, we really don't have a sick policy. It's so vague, but they have a policy of when to write you up. So there's no policy of how many occurrences or how many times you have to be off. It clearly states that, but they have a policy of when managers are to write you up when they feel like you are being a liability to the operation. Mm-hmm. How does your sick policy work? Or maybe because I know it's going to be definitely different for pilots, flight attendants, but like, how does that work? Is there like a number of occurrences? Is there because with us, it could just be whatever they say it is.
Yeah.
So I would like people to talk about, if you could talk about that and explain to people how yours works, maybe.
Sure. I'll have to do it in the most general term because our PWA is extremely complicated, this and that. But we have depending if you're a first year, second year, third year, fourth year, or fifth year pilot, you get hours per year. So you get X amount of hours. The more senior you are, you're then basically capped out. So we have, around 200, I forget the number exactly, 275 hours a year that we get of sick time. We have rules in place where if you use over 120 of them in a rolling calendar year, you then have to verify your illness, or the company can ask why you weren't there. There are instances, let's say if I happen to call out in a time frame that's like, 30, 40 minutes from when I'm supposed to be at the airport, why didn't you call in sooner? The company can ask you why you were sick. You just got to get a doctor's note. But yeah, it's all based on seniority. There's no policy or procedure for getting in trouble for it, unless you are abusing sick time. That's kind of built in where if they ask you for a doctor's note and you're not sick, well, then you're not supposed to be using the sick time for that. But yeah, so it's all based on seniority. It's set. One of the instances that we see quite a bit is, let's just say your direct manager doesn't like you, and now they're going to change the policy in order to make you go away, right? And you don't have a contract or a union to back you up. They can change the policy at any minute that they want and say, hey, I need you to come in and explain why you were sick. And, oh, I don't like the reason you were sick. All right, now here's your discipline, spell it out, X, Y, Z. For us, which is nice, not only just for sick time, but the whole contract, everybody's treated as one. There's no policies being made up. We've negotiated it, and we know what we're going to be operating, and it's from the very junior pilot to the very senior pilot. There's no, all right, if you're here in Detroit, you're going to get this. If you're down in Atlanta, I know for like the mechanics, they just changed their shifts, where now they're working, instead of any overtime, they're working like 10 to 12 hour, 4-day work days per week. And that's it. There's no more shift changes, flex schedules, nothing like that. With us having the contract, you know what you can, you know what work rules you're going to be working under, and they can't deviate from that. You're set in for the duration of that contract. So, you know, I think that's a huge thing, that they can't just change the policy and rules on you guys for any, you know, for having to be sick. Sorry. You know, we just went through COVID. People's immune systems are a little bit different now. There's a lot more stuff raging. If you're sick, you're sick. You don't need to be coming to work. It is what it is, you know, and you know, thankfully in Michigan, we just helped create the Earned Sick Time Act. So now we have state sick, and we have work rules in Michigan now from the state level that we were able to get for all employees at the airlines, because management didn't want it. We went in and lobbied for it. That's another thing. So we have government affairs advocacy. So we were down in Michigan Capitol and Lansing, and we were able to get that policy. But you know, we need that everywhere for everybody. We need everybody who's unionized to start fighting for everybody in that aspect. And it's taken the pilots a little bit to finally get to that point. But after the last couple of years, we're fully on board getting help and helping out other employee groups.
So Ryan, that was Stan, give him a hand clap on that. That was really good. That was amazing. That was good. So Ryan, you said something that I want you to kind of go back over, because a lot of time the workers don't feel like that the pilots are with us. You just said we, and everything you said, it was never or I. You said we want to see, you know, you all get the same thing. We want to see you all be unionized. We want to see you guys have good safety rules. We want to see, everything you said was a we, and I want you to re-illustrate that, because I want the workers to truly understand that. You even said, if you want us back, we will come back, because we're on the team with you. We want to see you win. And I would think it's important that the workers truly understand that the pilots are not looking at themselves as themselves. You're looking as a we. And that we was so important in what you were saying, because the workers need to know this is all of us trying to do this together. And to see Delta be unionized would be, I mean, across the board, flight attendants, ramp, but everyone would be we'll be going back to home where we used to be at. So that we part, can you just tell them why we is so important as one?
You know, if the problem that I see right now is that, since, you know, at Delta especially, it's us and the dispatchers that are unionized, nobody else. So we can't collaborate with anybody else, because we can't talk to anybody. We have you guys now who are in an effort to organize, but that, you know, where does that go after that? We try to help and build on that aspect to it, but you know, and I'm sorry to say or hear that you guys think that we are not in the conjunction. We are, you know, we have employees that are pretty far out there. They don't really care much even about our own union. That's going to happen anywhere. But for the most part, we want everybody to succeed at this job. You know, our management touts that we're the best. I don't see it, because we don't treat our other employee groups like it. You know, we have to fight for our contract. We negotiate hard. We're all one in unity for our group, and you know, we want to see that for everybody. I hate when, especially when I come to Detroit, especially in the middle of wintertime. You know, I see that, you know, the ground workers, the rampers just running around, freezing. They're understaffed. They don't get the help they need. You know, you're seeing them just, you know, I'm on the bus with you guys. I see how bad it is. And I talk, I'm like, all right, let's get this going. Then, you know, you need to get some better work rules. But the collective voice, you know, we can all work together if everybody's unionized to be able to work to achieve better work rules for everybody, especially for you guys. You know, and that's what the ultimate goal is to bring you guys up to a point where we're communicating with you. And when if you guys, you know, get to the point where you get the numbers to unionize, that we can start talking and show you what benefits we have and what you guys can build off of, and what, you know, where you guys look at the industry, and, you know, all working together. You know, we could all be on the same line, you know, talking to each other and then working towards getting you guys what you need. So.
Wow. Thanks, Ryan, for that. So Ryan, also, and then I'll let Stedman and Flex jump in a little bit. When you talk about, you said the 200 hours, is that 200 days or 200 hours? Is that like per day, like it used to be? You had OJI time. We used to have OJI bank, sick time bank. We had all these different banks. So is that what you were referring to, so that we can be really clear with the workers of what it would look like if the union should get back in, those hours are considered as days. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
They're not days, they're hours, because we're hourly workers too. Our schedule's a little different because we only get paid for the time you see the airplane actually moving. So, we typically only work 70 to 80 hours a month. And that's, that it seems crazy, but that's, it's just the way it works for pilot pay. And that, the 275 hours is what is the hours for the day. So let's just say we don't have a min day. We don't go to work for, everybody goes to work for 8 hours. I could work a 5-hour day, or I could work an 8 or 9 hour day, depending on where I'm flying to. And that's how we get paid. So let's just say I have a rotation, a trip that lasts for 4 days and it's worth 21 hours. And I'm legitimately sick during that time. I call out sick, and then I would get paid 21 hours for that trip.
Wow. Wow. And what about like when they say the profit sharing, if we vote a union in, we won't get profit sharing, which is one of the biggest threats that they say to the rampers is if you vote a union in, you can lose this, you can lose that, you can lose all of these different things that they say to us that we could lose with the union. Can you clarify that that is absolutely not the truth? You have more to gain than you have to lose?
Yeah, so that would be something negotiated, but let me tell you this, they're not going to not give it to one employee group when everybody else has it. They're just not going to do it. Why would they do that? Why would you alienate one group over another? I'll give you an example of why profit sharing is so important. And I really hate to do this, but it's a little pet peeve of mine. So back in the 2000s, the pilots, the airline went through bankruptcy in 2008, and both Northwest and Delta, all the pilots took a huge hit, over 50% pay cuts, and they lost their pensions. So what the company gave them, because they never thought that they'd make money again, is profit sharing. They're like, hey, we'll give you profit sharing. We're never going to make any money, so you're not going to ever see this. And, we're going to just completely take away your pension. So we lost the pensions. We got profit sharing. Nobody else did within Northwest and Delta, even after the merger. They clawed back some of it during negotiations from us in 2012. But that robust system then took place. And then everybody else then ended up getting it because they all heard that the pilots have profit sharing. And so then the management gave it to everybody else to make it fair, which is great. I don't mind it, but they always touted that they're doing something for everybody. When we lost, our union lost, and we took a huge hit on everything else. But no, if you look at the optics of it, if you're a unionized employer, you're trying to unionize, why would they not negotiate something that everybody else has, or they're giving to somebody else, and then just completely take it away from you guys? You know how bad that would look? That's not negotiating in good faith. You would just alienate your entire group, and then what happens? Then you have more bad blood. Like, negotiations aren't fun. I'll tell you that. I've been through a lot. It's stressful. But the things that you gain out of it by having everybody on the same page, everybody on one voice, you will then achieve it. You will get those. Not only will you have profit sharing, but you'll have better sick time. You'll have, every contract's going to be based on what you guys want and need, right? So we don't have PTO, but maybe you guys accomplish that. Maybe you guys are able to get more vacation hours and more time off, or, a better schedule, whatever that looks like for you guys. A duty day, basically. Like you guys work any more than 10 hours, you're going to get premium pay on top of that, guaranteed, no matter what, no questions asked if you're working that long. These are all things that you can get, but you got to be at one voice at the table and actually coming together with that.
Wow, thank you for that, Ryan. Stepman and Flex, do you have anything you want to add or ask?
Yeah. So, first of all, thanks, Ryan, for joining us. I appreciate your commentary, your insight, and sharing your story, because I think for the listeners, eventual listeners and hearers, it's going to be really impactful and important to have the perspective of a pilot talking about the importance of a union, and explaining, why you would take the time out of your day to help us to organize, to help spread your voice to our fight. But I guess this is kind of tongue in cheek, but not not so much. We've talked a lot about on the show the revolving door, right? Delta has this idea of a policy of an open door. You can come and talk to management whenever you have an issue, and we've called that the revolving door, because you come in and you come right back out and nothing's changed, or you go in and complain and you're walked out because you've complained. So as a unionized employee, one of the few unionized work groups at Delta, do you feel like that has impacted your relationship with the company? Delta prides itself on being a family, one great team, and wrote thank you on the side of an airplane for all of us, and the world's greatest employees on the side of all the buses, and all this other they take articles out in the newspapers and all these other proclamations whenever they can. But as a unionized employee, do you feel like you have a worse relationship with the company, or do you feel more or less inclined to engage in these types of demonstrations? When we have profit sharing, they have these events, so they take pictures and they do these things. Do you feel like you are, again, reiterate, more or less inclined to engage in these types of behaviors as a unionized employee? How does that affect your relationship with the company or with your management? So thanks.
Sure. Yeah. I can go on lots of different tangents with that. So there's always good and bad, right? So I want our company to succeed. I think every employee does. If we're invested, we're as pilots, we're at this company for 35, 40 years, right? So we want the company to succeed. On the other hand, like, why don't you treat us better, right? And as an example, I know a lot of our pilots attend these events. They like to go to them. We have a good working relationship. When it comes to safety, we are all about it, right? So when we fly, it's a whole different conversation with safety than I think it is with you guys, unfortunately. We have a aviation safety reporting program and all these other different things with the company that they want to know about if we have issues, right? So if we want to prevent accidents and incidences, so they take it seriously. Now, when it comes to any other kind of feedback, absolutely not. It's a bridge uphill broken, because they have 18,000 pilots and they don't have 100,000 plus employees right now. They don't have the bandwidth to take in any of this data. So if I go into our manager's office, our chief pilot's office, and I have a safety concern, they will definitely hear me out, right? That's their job. They have to address it some way, some form. Will it get fixed? I don't know. But like in Detroit, we're harping, the pilots were, for a long time, that when we come in for metrics and safety standpoints, we don't have enough rampers on the ground to bring us in or to work on airplanes. And we advocated. And then they finally, after we kept bugging them, I think they finally opened the door for 50, 60 more hires last month or the month before, which is great, because we want to see more employees engaged in doing good work for us and having better benefits. But now we got to get you guys on the point where you guys are actually getting the better benefits compared to the other people that you're working with in the industry. But for communication wise, yeah, we have our union at Delta, let's just back up. The Airline Pilots Association is made up of, the number fluctuates, but I think we're over 70 different other airlines, all associated with our main umbrella. And so we have resources there. At Delta, we have over 500 volunteers, unionists working for the association, our union, in order to get this stuff done. And our safety group is massive. It's probably half of the numbers of our volunteers. Whether it comes to fatigue, to aviation safety reporting, accident and incident reporting, safety and health on layovers in the cities that we have to lay over in, to domestic operation issues. We have volunteers for all that, and they all have their company counterpart that they work with. So if a pilot has a problem, they let us know via an online communication tool that we have, and then it goes to that specific committee. And then that committee then engages with the company to get this resolved. So not every pilot has to go straight to somebody. They come to us so we can address that problem for them. Hopefully that answered your question.
It did. Thank you. Thanks for that insight.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we come into a wrap up, Ryan, is there anything else that you wanted to add, or Flex or Stedman, anything else that you wanted to ask before I ask the final question to Ryan? Is there anything else you guys wanted to ask? Or Ryan, is there anything else you wanted to say at this moment?
Flex, you got a question first?
Absolutely. I got a few questions. I think we missed a whole lot of this.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're missing a whole lot of stuff that we need to get into. Number one, how do you feel as a dues paying member about your union being called a third party by the company? Because that's what they continuously tell us as rampers or people trying to organize. So how do you feel about you being the third party in this union deal, saying that you're involved? And also, would you trade that relationship and that process in like being unionized to the direct for a direct relationship? Because I heard you in there when you were speaking about how sometimes things, at least you have a process to get things done. We really don't have a process. They'll tell you there's a process, but there is genuinely no process to get things actually taken care of. No matter how much you tell them it's about safety, no matter how much, at the end of the day, it's you guys need to figure it out and get it done. So that would be like my question to you, like just for ramp people, so they understand, because we were always told that the union is a third party. They tell you we're one family, right? But then they tell you the union is a third party. So in order for the union to be a third party, that means you already have a two-party system. And people don't always understand that because they tell us we're family. What's your opinion on that?
So that's interesting. I've never heard that comment before, and I find that pretty disturbing, actually.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all. I maybe that conversation changes if you guys organize and get the numbers right. And then, for us, let me just put it this, I guess, as plainly as possible. When you become a pilot here, you are automatically, no matter what, part of our union. And we've, I was at the regional carriers, all ALPA. They have other unions out there, but when we address management, we say we're not Delta pilots, they're union pilots, they're ALPA pilots coming to work for you, right? And we are not a third party anywhere. We are the entity in which our voice is heard for the pilots for our work group, period. We don't, there's, I guess whenever they address us, they go straight to the union. They don't go to individual pilots about anything. It is straight to the union to have that conversation, because we are one-on-one with management. There's no third party. We are the entity in which they want to deal with, period. So that conversation must be a tactic to keep you guys non-union, like they so hard to try to keep that. No, you are not a third party. When you guys organize it, you are then the entity. There's no third party. It is that entity, your voice for the union moving forward, period. That is it. So no, I don't. Yeah. And for your question about the dues paying, every dollar that I've ever spent in dues has been worth it, period. The amount of resources we get,
Yeah.
I'll stipulate, I don't think many other pilot, we always have, every employee group's got, their own employees that are anti-labor. Let's just put it straight. So we have a couple pilots that are they don't see what we portray, and what their money is going to. But we, over the years, have been advocating for way more transparency and showing pilots what we're doing for them. And I'm sure you guys have all heard about the big contract we got a couple years ago that changed the whole industry, and they all see it now, right? And we've done a lot better within our own processes to be just open and clear. So every dollar that you see that you give to the union, you'll see where it's going and why it's impactful to you and the resources that you're getting for it. Our biggest thing, especially in Detroit, is how are we benefiting the pilots? And if we're not benefiting the pilots one bit, it's not worth our money. It's not worth our time. We're not going to do it, and it's not benefiting them. So we don't spend money on anything else like that. Now I'll stipulate, when it comes to other unions, we do spend money on being more proactive, helping out with, when you guys were out picketing at the airport, we'll go out there. We'll for sure spend whatever we need to get people and bodies there to show solidarity with any employee group that's on this endeavor or during the endeavor and what you've already got there, because then you're going to have to negotiate your first contract and you're going to need help and resources. And, so it comes down to one time where a pilot has an issue with management, and then me as a rep has to support them. And then every time that we have a successful outcome, which is 99.9% of the time, they thank us for everything we've done. And then they have a whole different attitude if they did before about where their union money went, because we just saved their job, their career, everything, right? So to have that back up, and it's all worth it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me, because I know Amanda wants to rap, but I definitely want to, while we got you here, I want to ask. So, I was listening when you were talking about profit sharing. Profit sharing, losing profit sharing is a big deal to Atlanta rampers and most of the rampers across the system. A lot of people don't know that the profit sharing was something that pilots negotiated to kind of recoup money, because like you said, they never thought they were going to be making this type of money again. So it wasn't something that they didn't expect it to be this. And one of the things that you said that was very important is that why would they give it to one group and not give it to another group? Because to punish them for unionizing. Like, people think that this is something that's going to be tough for us to be able to retain, not realizing that the pilots, you guys have already kind of carved that out for us. You know what I'm saying? So for you, what I would ask you to do is just one more time, just explain how, like, profit sharing, number one, how you guys got that profit sharing, if you could, real quick, and just how you feel like that's become a part of what Delta's norm is now because of the things that we lost in the past. Those of us who were here, who've been here long enough to remember the losses. Could you just explain that real quick to my people who might not really know?
Yeah. So, we had so they gave it to everybody after, I forget the exact time frame, but late or early 2010s, they started giving it to everybody. And then, there was a point in 2015 when we were going through our contract negotiations there. We turned down a contract. The pilots voted down a contract because they basically got rid of profit sharing. Well, they completely gutted it. And so what did they do? They stopped giving it to other employee groups because they thought that that was the case in at hand, and for you guys, right? And for everybody else, which is ridiculous, right? And let's just say the pilots are getting rid of profit sharing, right? So that's not going to be a thing that takes place. So as long as we have it, that's just now the norm, right? And it's about culture. You've seen upper management, C-suite execs touting it, promoting it. And now all of a sudden, if you guys unionize, are going to not. Okay, well, guess what leverage you guys have? You have a million different news articles. You've got the word of the CEO and of management saying that this is the best thing that's ever happened to Delta employees. And this is, you can build off all this stuff. It's not going to go away. It is negotiated once you become a union, yes. But is that going to be a huge ask when they're already doing it and they've been doing it for years and they're not going to get rid of it for any other employee group? That's just not going to happen, and we are happy to lead the way on that because we're not getting rid of it. And we're just about to go in negotiations again next year, right? And this, any mention of touching profit sharing it's a non-starter for us. It's never going to happen. So, yeah.
Hey, I appreciate you chiming in on that. You don't know how important that is for my coworkers to hear.
Yes.
Another thing I wanted to kind of just, I'm sorry.
Just said I'm definitely going to clip that up to put.
Yeah, we definitely got to clip that up. I wanted to ask you, because in your last contract, and I kind of follow these things, but I could be wrong. But I know you had like a Me Too clause that if American or United had got a raise that was bigger than yours, and they had to beat that by 1%. Yep. Like, that's currently on the ramp. I just want to just give you a little background for us. Not sure how much you know, but currently on the ramp, we're like number 5 or something like that in pay 4 or 5, because Alaskan has a thing where they can't go below number 4, and everybody else gets these pay raises. On the ramp, we have no idea when our next raise is coming. We see how much profits we're making. We hear how great an airline we are, but we have no idea when our next raise is coming. We have no idea how much our insurance is going to jump. we have no idea about anything that's important to our futures and our careers at this airline. And I just want you, if you could, just speak about how your contracts explain and bring those type of things out. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're always called the best employees. All of us, we give the greatest experience in the airline industry. That's why Delta makes so much money, right? We are the Delta difference. All of us, pilots, above wing, below wing, everywhere. That's what we do. But could you explain how the security behind not just knowing what your job title entails, but knowing what your benefit packages and your work rules? Could you just give us some insight behind that, if you could, please?
Sure. Yeah. So
Great question.
They're good at wrapping those buses, aren't they? Making you look good. How do you feel when you're inside them? Yeah. So big union picture, like I talked about before, we're part of a lot of other airlines. United's part of us. American's not. They're doing their own crazy business that I don't talk bad about them, I guess. But we work together to build off one another, right? So one of our, we started off the industry with the Me Too clause. So whatever their highest rate is that they get paid, it has to transfer over plus 1%. So you just keep building on everybody else. And so we were able to help United get that, their bump, and then they got a bump because of what their timing was for negotiations for American. And so you can keep building off each other, but that's because the crosstalk between unions. No one should be going down in anything to try to undercut somebody else. You just keep pushing each other up. So your wages and benefits just keep improving every time you negotiate. So to answer your other question, our contracts vary depending on what we sign. We can sign a 1-year deal up to a 5-year deal. This last one was a 4-year deal for us. And basically for 4 years, what you're going to get paid, where you're at, and this, we do everything by seniority. So that, you don't switch airplanes unless you can hold a seat and you're senior enough to do it. You don't get paid that rate unless you're a senior to hold it, you're able to hold it. So everybody's treated the same. No one can go out and say, I'm going to negotiate on my own, make more than the next person. Nobody can undercut another employee for it. We are all the same. We don't get treated in like male, female, whatever. Everybody's making the same depending on when they got hired. So we don't have that issue whatsoever. And then for the X amount of years, what you're getting paid, what your health insurance is going to look like, how many vacation years I'm going to have. And it's job security. I know that this is what my life's going to look like until we negotiate again. And then you keep the next negotiation, you build on that, you get better and better and bigger. A lot of it depends on the industry, and it seems chaotic right now. And there's a lot of anti-labor, rhetoric out there, and just ignore it. Just ignore it. We only get better as a collective bargaining group to increase your own pay and wages. It's less stressful. I worked, when you're a server, you don't know how many tips you're going to get that day, or if you can afford rent because you don't have a setup knowing what you're going to get paid, right? And having a union, and after your first negotiation, it spells out everything. It spells out from top to bottom what you're going to be paid, how you're going to get it, your work benefit rules, your overtime rules. Exactly what it's going to be like. So you can plan on, I'm to a penny, I'm going to get paid this much. Boom, done. They can't, the company can't just next month say, hey, sorry, we're having a bad day, we're having a bad month, we're just going to slash your pay. Decided to do that. They're in some really bad business shape anyways, but we're making lots of money, and there's no need for that at all. So exactly what's coming to you, and you're able to set up your life a lot better when you have that. Not only that, but then you get the job security from your other workers all working together over the same contract, the same voice, and you're able to really push that forward.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for that, Ryan. Thanks for those questions, Flex. They were really, really, really good questions. But what I wanted to kind of do, like what you just said, Ryan, to really break it down for the workers. When we were union, we had a career. When we became straight Delta, we had a job. And there's a big difference in having a career and having a job. When you have a union can guarantee you what you're going to have, what you can look forward to. But when you have a job, you are an at-will employee. And at any time, the company wants to just say, hey, we're going to let 200 of you go. hey, we're going to do this here. Your career is now a job, and there's a big difference in the two. So being union, Ryan, and I know we're asking you a lot of stuff here, but the difference in having a career and having a job is a big difference. And how would you explain that? You have a career, we have a job, because we're non-union and you are union. How could you explain that in like a wrap up, almost, to just say the importance of having a union so that you can see yourself coming to work again as a career like we used to?
To put it simply, I like going to work. I love my job, and the union has made it so. I see the struggles with non-unionized employees all the time. You're not happy to come to work. You're not necessarily happy to be there. It's a struggle. It's a fight. You don't know what's going on. There's veiled threats that are thrown at you for no reason. There's this or that with individual employees at certain bases that make no sense on their job security. It makes you happy to come to work. You're part of a group now. It's not just, I've got coworkers, you're like, hey, I'm part of this entity that is here for me. They're here to look out for myself. And they are here to make this a career, a living wage. I'm less stressed. Like, I've worked at non-union jobs and they're not fun. At-will employment is stressful because you don't know what every day next week's going to look like. Next month could be completely different. You start enjoying work when you're part of a union. You know, you just do. You have security now. You have known entities in which work rules and pay that you know are guaranteed. And when you show up to work, that's it. And you don't have that right now. And that's nuts. That's nuts to me that they've done such a good job keeping everybody non-unionized that we need everybody at this company to become union. Look at any other airline. Delta is the only one that has non-unionized employee groups. Why do you think these other guys, you look at Southwest, their rampers love their job. They love it to death. And I don't know. That's not really a short combined and it answer. Okay. But do you enjoy going to work or not? Like, all of our pilots, because we work so hard on their behalf, they're happy to come to work. I hardly get any complaints unless something crazy happens. They enjoy coming to work. It's a family because of the union, not because of the company. I'll tell you that.
Hey, man. Hey, give him a round of applause for that, man. Run that round of applause. Yes. Thank you, brother. Yes. Thank you for that. People needed to hear that. You don't realize it because maybe you don't have a lot of encounters with us. But brother, when I tell you what you spoke right there was gospel.
Yes.
Gospel. Yes. People don't we are always going to be family. Now, right now, we are a family in turmoil because we all struggling separately, and we try to support each other separately. But to come together and galvanize our movement and come together and unionize, people will understand that a lot of our everyday individual issues, we can take care of that by unionizing. And I appreciate you for saying that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like I said, when you guys come to that point in which you need our help moving forward, I'll glad to talk to your employee groups, or we have reps all over the system, right? We got, I'm way more passionate than most. I'll tell you that. So I will do my best. We're all here for you guys. We're here to help out and show up and be supportive of you guys organizing. And, I'm probably going to get a lot of crap from my manager because of this, but it is what it is, right? What are you going to do? This is the movement in which your lives get better. This is the entity in which you are a happy person as a worker in order to do this.
Wow.
Hey, brother Ryan, let me tell you something that some of the old heads told me growing up, man. They said the truth don't belong to you. It belongs to everybody. So I appreciate you telling the truth to everybody. We can't hoard the truth. It's not ours to say who get to hear it and who don't. So tell that to your manager too when he say something, man. That's not, the truth ain't yours to hoard either.
Oh, no, he knows.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
Definitely. So yeah, I'll give my closing remarks. I really appreciate you coming, Ryan, to give perspective, because I think it's important, especially being an employee with Delta who is unionized. We've had a lot of different people come, different guests, employees. We had flight attendants last week. But to get a pilot, to get a person who's unionized, somebody who's passionate and knowledgeable, to share the truth with the rampers, the workforce, I think it's it's indispensable. And a lot of the things you talked about, there was a printout I just saw. Maybe it's in Minneapolis and Atlanta too. It was like 10 or 12 things, like saying why what the IM can't do. They were saying they can't guarantee raises, they can't guarantee this stuff, and contract negotiations could take a long time. But a lot of those things, you really hit on those throughout the course of the conversation in an organic way. I was going to try to bring some of those up. I didn't want to read off of it verbatim because it's an internal document, but you hit a lot of those points off organically just to really show the truth and put all that into perspective. So I really appreciate it. I know that everybody who hears this is going to really be able to get some information, insight, and motivation. So I definitely got to clip a lot of this interview up because I know it's going to be valuable for people to be able to digest some of this in smaller pieces and then be able to come and watch the full interview. But I appreciate you again, and I'll pass it over to Plex or Amanda if they want to give final remarks.
So Ryan, this is the last thing I would love to hear from you. Delta workers like myself, Flex, and all of us that are working to organize Delta, which is a small group in which we continuously try to grow into a large group to get Delta unionized. Is there any last word of encouragement that you can give to us that would keep us motivated, to keep us going, to keep us pushing together to get Delta, ramp, cargo, and tower flight attendants organized? Is there any last word of encouragement that you can give to the workers that are pushing this and working hard and tireless every day, even doing these podcasts, phone calls? I mean, 7 days a week, we're doing something to get the workers unionized. Is there any words of encouragement you can give to us as a whole?
Yeah, so I saw that paper. It's been touted where our union office is in Detroit. I laugh at that. I would simply state it's exhausting, it's tiring, and it's stressful hearing all these veiled threats, but every effort that you put into this is going to be worth it in the end. You go out there, you unionize, you get better contract and work rules. It's going to be hard work. There's no doubt about it. But then you're bringing up your work pay, benefits, quality of life. Everything improves the second you do it. And so, it's going to take time. It's not easy, but you've got to fight the good fight, because at the end of the day, you're doing nothing but bettering yourself, period, by organizing. And then, being part of a union, you are going to be able to, negotiate rates and what you're worth and what you're valued as. So if we're the best airline in the industry, why aren't you getting paid that? Well, go get those numbers, go get what you want and be able to have that voice and get it done. You should definitely go out and do it wholeheartedly. It's definitely worth your time. It is, go research it. It is more beneficial than anything you'll ever do in your career. Look at the rest of America. There's a reason they're trying to get rid of unions, is because they don't want to pay labor. They want everybody to get paid nothing. And well, I don't want to see profits going to all these rich people that don't have any say in the game. They don't do any of the work. Well, start putting it back to the employees and start putting it back to you that deserve the work, deserve the pay, deserve the work rules because of what you guys do for the company. You make it run, right? So there's my closing thoughts on that. Thanks again for having me. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And we thank you for being on the show today. And we look forward to having you back again. I'm going to text you.
All right, sounds good, Amanda. Appreciate it.
All right, Stedman, close us out.
And so that was the interview with Captain Ryan Breznau. And I really hope that everyone enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed being a part of it. One of the great things that has come about this podcast drive has been able to connect with workers, labor, goal of ours to really try to voices in the labor movement and the labor struggle to bring perspective and new insights and ideas, and let workers talk and let workers share their stories and their struggles and what drives them and why they're here. And so we hope that we're able to do that for you, to motivate you to continue to fight, to as Captain Breznau said, get what we deserve. You've heard me say that on the show. You've heard Flex and Amanda say that on the show. If we're the number one airline, if Delta expects us to be number one in every metric, why aren't we as the employees number one? If number two isn't good enough in on-time departures, if number two isn't good enough in bags to claim, if number two isn't good enough in customer satisfaction, then number two isn't good enough for pay and compensation. Number two isn't good enough for us in work rules. Number two isn't good enough for us in vacation time or the cost of benefits or any of these other various things that we lag behind our competitors in, competitors who we outperform continually due to the hard work and the efforts of Delta people that, as we can see, from the flight attendants to the ramp to the pilots, even, when we looked at Unify, so even some of the contract workers, right? All throughout this chain, even the Starbucks employees, right? So Delta uses, I guess they've switched from Starbucks. I guess they were saying, I can't remember. But, all throughout our chain, there are hardworking people who want and demand more for the labor they put in, and they deserve to be paid and respected and compensated in a way that, that we all feel like is representative of our effort. And that's the ultimate goal of this drive and of the show. And we appreciate you for joining us. Again, we hope that this was an informative episode, and we hope to have Captain Brian Breznau back with us and many of our other guests. And so I'll close us out as I always do. Thanks for tuning in with us. If you have questions that were not answered, or maybe a specific topic you'd like to have addressed, leave us a comment, an email, and we will get back to you. And please, I say that every episode. I try to say that every episode so that new guests or recurrent guests who may, skip this part or forget this part can hear this. I read the comments, we read the comments, read the emails. If you have anything to say, constructive, any information to share, we engage with that, because this is a show that is attempting to really do an insurmountable thing. And so forming a union by itself is not easy. And forming a union at Delta Airlines is definitely an order of magnitude greater. But I'll continue. Also, all available links to information and materials are posted in the description. Remember, this podcast is powered by working people just like you. In solidarity, peace.